Okay. Welcome to an all-new episode of Press YYZ, your favorite Canadian gaming podcast. As always, a friendly reminder that Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ plus lives matter. You can watch this show weekly on youtube.com/PressYYZ, live on twitch.tv/PressYYZ every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, or listen on your own time on any podcast service you fancy. We appreciate however you choose to support this weird, crazy dream we have. But if you've got no loonies or toonies to toss our way, it's all good. We'll be here for you no matter what. As always, socials for my hosts in the descriptions below. But as always, joining me on the show is the award-winning pretentious film student, Alex Ballard.
Hi, everybody. I thought it would feel different.
Our French connection, Alexander Kozi Kozina.
Hello.
He's got his head in the clouds, AJ Fraser.
I've also got a cactus. Yep.
The phenomenal Nathan McInerney.
I was thinking about challenging Mitch to a weight loss competition, and I thought we could call it Nathan and Mitch Get Each Other Off.
As always, I'm your host with the most, Mr. Mitch George, and that is a terrible name for a thing.
And that has been the last episode of Press
I think that's a
YYZ.
great name, personally.
No, you know what's a terrible name for a thing? Golf battle, because none of that describes what. I don't know what's going on. It's the most generic ass name I've ever heard for a thing ever. AJ, what's golf battle?
Can I guess? Wait, can I guess quickly?
Go ahead.
Is it a game where you golf and you battle people along the way as you golf?
No.
Oh, all right.
Explain,
You're close. It's related to golf. No, I've just been, kind of bored, lazing around and stuff at home and whatnot. But I just found a mobile game. It's like it's an old mini clip, like one of those multiplayer like flash game sort of things, but it's on your phone now, and it's just called Golf Battle, and up to 6 people can play at the same time. And there's like, you battle you battle to get it in the hole in the least amounts in the least amount of shots, like normal golf or whatnot. But I've been. It's not often. It's not often that a mobile game like that kind of grabs my attention. But I don't feel like I have to necessarily buy things to get better, which is really good. It's just a matter of as you play more, you gain experience, and you level up. You unlock more courses. You have to kind of buy into courses and spend these coins to do it, and you can earn enough coins to do almost any to just play at the most basic level courses by just like watching an ad if you run out of coins or something. And so it's really easy to get into. It's just something I've been playing to kind of pass the time, like especially at work and stuff.
I just got a hole in 4.
This is an actual game from miniclip.com.
Literally from
Miniclip. By
Miniclip.
Miniclip.
Yes.
Huh.
I wasn't kidding.
I didn't know that was still a thing.
Yeah. And we can like challenge each other if you want at some point randomly, whatever. But yeah, it's a good way to pass the time. I can you need to use the washroom for 5 minutes, pull your phone out and shoot a couple of holes of golf. Why not?
Similar to this, and I didn't actually think about it until we started the show and you started talking about this being a mobile title. There's a game I've gotten back into, and I don't know why, but it's called Balls with a Z.
Oh, yeah. I know
that. You guys familiar with Balls?
Is there any relationship to the movie Ants with a Z?
No relation to the movie Ants with a Z.
Your sister is in the chat. Please tell us more about your balls.
It's a game called Balls. It's not about my balls, but it's basically a brick breaker. And for whatever reason, I had a hankering. The one game I go to on my phone when I've got downtime or I'm taking a crap is Euchre, because I'm an old person. But Balls has taken some of that time recently.
Wow.
On a mobile game front, I just hit level 2000 in Wordscapes. yesterday.
Ooh,
I played 2,000 puzzles of wordscapes.
not bad.
It's a lot of.
Speaking of puzzles, you've also been playing another puzzle game by the name of Maquette.
Oh, yes. I have. Came out on PlayStation Plus yesterday, and I beat it in one sitting last night.
I hate you.
It's fine.
I haven't had that much time to put into it. It's one of the best uses of the help tiles I've seen on PlayStation.
I think Sackboy does it better. I think the help tiles miss the mark on where you are in some of the puzzles sometimes.
I did notice that on a couple of occasions. I ended up restarting because I wasn't sure where to go, and the help tile had disappeared because I guess I'd gotten past a threshold that it recognized, and I still haven't played Sackboy. It's on the list. It needs to get played. But I'm enjoying Maquette. I can't say it's phenomenal by any stretch. I was hoping it was going to be better because I picked it up in our fantasy critic league, and now I'm disappointed.
I think, like, my general feeling on it is it's a fine game. I think the story is cool, except we've seen that story told in Florence much better. That was also released by Annapurna. And I think the puzzle mechanics are taken right out of a game called A Fisherman's Tale, which I also think did those much better. I think this is an interesting game where either the solution's too simple or it's too obtuse, and it finds a hard way of getting that right line and difficulty in terms of the puzzle mechanics. And then beyond that, you have the really, like, the story, and I will say the voiceovers are very good. Bryce Dallas Howard and Seth Gable do a good job with their voices, but it doesn't really tie into the puzzles you're completing.
Yeah, I was very surprised to hear Bryce Dallas Howard when I started this game up.
Yeah. So, like, it's really good. Like, I think there's something to the story and about the relationship, and I think the voiceovers are great, but it just really doesn't tie into the puzzle world that you're solving and why you're doing it. So I'm glad it was free on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, I think that's a great place for it, honestly, because I feel like it's a game worth experiencing, but not one that you necessarily want to pay full price for.
I've heard it compared to The Witness.
I wouldn't compare it to
that was the vibe that I was getting from it.
I think The Witness is a lot more puzzly and less story. The Witness almost has no story.
Yeah.
This almost has too much story.
Yeah, this is like more story, way less puzzle.
Got it.
Interesting.
But
would it be better if it was more puzzle?
Plus, I'll throw something in the chat for everyone here, but you keep going.
No, would it be better if it was more puzzle or no?
Maybe. But I don't know if you guys have seen, related to PlayStation Plus, CD Keys has a deal today where a year of PlayStation Plus is like $34.
I did. I have jumped on
I may or may not have stocked up.
Yeah, I'm good for the next 2 years.
I'm good until 2025.
If PlayStation keeps keeping these months like PlayStation Plus has since the PS5 launched, it'll be well.
Nathan, you never played Final Fantasy VII Remake, did you?
No, so I'm partway through.
You will now.
I will in June when I get my PS5 upgrade.
Did you buy the game?
Yeah, I bought it last year, and I got
never got around to it.
5 hours in, I want to say.
Okay.
And something else took over, and I was going to go back to it it was in my January plan to go back to, and I just never got back to it, and now it's sitting firmly as a June date for me to play now. June 10th, I believe.
I'm excited. Yes, it is one day before Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Yeah, June 9th, I believe.
No, it's the 10th and the 11th. I don't know why. I mean, it's a Square Enix decision, I'm sure, but that is strange because I want to play both of those.
Yeah, very strange that they decided to advertise a game that comes out one day before the game that is kind of the big flagship for your platform.
It's your big summer. It's your big summer release. Yeah, I think it's fun too. Because we were all kind of speculating as to that state of play. I expected to see Ratchet and Clank, and I'm now understanding why we didn't.
Yeah,
because you can't advertise two games coming one day apart from each other.
I do think there is a year's difference in release date almost, because like technically Final Fantasy VII, as much as the PS5 and we'll have some new content, it's a year older game. Also, I think they do speak to different demographics, kind of.
No, I agree with you there for sure.
It's kind of counter programming. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of interesting to see what happens, we've been talking about this for months and months, it feels. And we finally, I think, have a conclusion to the story, because I saw a tweet about a platinum trophy. Kozi, you finally finished Spider-Man 2018?
Yeah, finally happened. I mean, we all say finally here, but I mean, once I kind of got started on my third big playthrough of this game, it was kind of imminent and obvious from the beginning that, okay, I'm actually going to get through and finish it this time around, because I really committed to actually getting through and finishing it. Over the course of the past few weeks, I've kind of sprinkled in my thoughts here and there on the game. I think that its combat system is really quite exceptional. I think that swinging through Manhattan and webbing up foes, especially once you kind of fully are able to grok most of the mechanics in the game, is a real delight and joy. I think its story has its upsides and downtimes. Downtimes, I meant downsides.
Downsides, yeah.
I think that MJ and Peter's relationship is really, really good. It feels believable, and I feel like it evolves over the course of the game in a way that I felt to be really satisfying. I do think, however, that some of the other relationships that Peter has with some of his other friends and foes alike felt a little bit less than satisfying. I tweeted out on Twitter that I kind of felt like especially once the game gets into its third act, it kind of feels like everything goes on autopilot. It was kind of apparent from the beginning of the game that, like, hey, this relationship that Peter shares with Otto Octavius is not going to last, that it is inevitable that he's going to eventually turn evil. But I felt like the moment where he actually did turn evil felt like it was a real sharp turn. And by the way, I should probably be putting up spoilers just for the sake of everybody else here who might be watching it.
I think we can avoid spoilers for the most part, but yeah, don't feel like you gotta hold yourself back.
I feel like there have been many instances in the past where we've skirted around spoilers and people have accused us of straight up just pouring spoilers all over our big sticky plates. So I just want to be extra cautious and
extra. Not the way I would describe spoilers.
Tell me about your sticky plates.
Yeah,
give me a name
to eat flapjacks and pancakes. I kind of felt like it's apparent that, like, the game was moving in the direction of having these characters be villainous, and I just felt like the way that we got there was not as satisfying as I nearly wanted it to be. Yes, Mitch.
Breaking news: Bloomberg reporting that a new Nintendo Switch model will have a 7-inch Samsung OLED 720p display, with plans to reveal later this year. Displays will go to mass production starting in June, with initial monthly target of just under 1 million units.
So there's
new model will have 4K resolution when docked.
Cool.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Can I use the same dock?
I mean, here's the thing. I can't feign interest in this, except for the fact that, if there is one game that Nintendo would conceivably unveil alongside this 4K Switch, it's Metroid
Prime.
Because that's
it's
a perfect
Breath of the Wild too.
I mean, yes, Mitch, but just let me cling to my fantasy for a second.
You can dream. You can dream.
Yeah, it's Metroid Prime because they would want to, no other game in Nintendo's catalog right now is going to likely be as much of a graphics and, technical hog as that game. But yeah, that's my hopes and dreams for Metroid Prime 4. And I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on Spider-Man. I trust that going forward, Insomniac will probably use the groundwork that they laid in this game to do some more inventive and cool stuff. I recently started playing the first of the 3 DLCs in the City That Never Sleeps trilogy. My plan originally after platinuming this game was to kind of take a bit of a break, but I had some spare time and some I'm kind of still in the zone from having beaten this game, so might as well give that a shot. It's fun. Looking forward to the other 2 episodes.
I will say
that's about it.
Myself.
I think the first episode was fine. The other 2 weren't great.
It fell off very, very hard. But I will say, with you're talking about the relationship between like these two iconic characters and the way that they, kind of the writing is on the wall of what is going to happen. It's a problem that even the Batman series has struggled with hard. I think the Telltale game is like the biggest example of it. It's like you have these iconic characters, you kind of know, like, just based on like just pop culture as a whole, like what's going to happen. And I think Insomniac, at least when it came to the Spider-Man game, did a good job at least of building up the relationship. At least I personally felt like they built up the relationship, even though I knew inevitably where it was going to finally end up. It still allowed me to feel these emotions that like they wanted to hit, even though it's like just based on Spider-Man being one of the most popular characters of all time. I know what's going to happen, but I felt like they did a decent job of like, still making you care about what's going on, even though you know what's going to happen.
Also, it made me cry at the end.
Nathan, I'm sorry to report that Guilty Gear Strive has been delayed to June.
Oh no.
I'm not surprised. The beta was good, but I'm not surprised. That's your time to figure out what's working, what's not working.
Yeah, so delayed from April to June. Sorry.
The beta was awesome, though.
I made the mistake of going to Twitter when I saw the Bloomberg thing, and now I'm just scrolling a little bit.
I'm playing Battle Golf.
What a good host.
I'll refrain. Yeah. I will refrain because I need to ask Kozi a couple of questions. So Kozi,
by the way, are we still in spoiler mode, or are we?
No, spoilers are gone.
All right, great.
Spoilers are done.
Spoilers are gone. So I know you've been sort of the captain of the Twitches basically since we launched this podcast, and you've been playing Apex weekly on this channel, the channel that we do the podcast on.
Yes.
And this past week was your last Apex stream.
Yes.
I need to know. What's next. Are you ready to announce what's coming next, or do we have to wait to see?
Here's the thing. I currently have 3 different candidates that are swirling around in my head. It's possible that by the time that you're listening to this episode, I might have already determined what of these 3 candidates I'm going to go with. Who knows? Maybe we might decide here and now. Candidate number 1, the entire Donkey Kong Country. Let's say that's the number 4 spot. Candidate number 1. The entire Donkey Kong Country trilogy is on the Nintendo Online service as of recent, and it's been a while since I played through all those games, so I'm thinking of doing just a playthrough of the entire trilogy. My idea is that like every month I will switch to a new video game or a new video game series, and being as knowledgeable of those games as I am, I feel super confident that I could beat all 3 of them within the span of like just those like 3 or 4 weeks that I'll be playing them. Game number 2.
Do you have to beat them or 100% them?
I'm just my own self-imposed rules are going to be that I'm just going to have to beat them, not 100% them. Okay. I can 100% them on my own time. Number 2. So I've been meaning to start up a little game by the name of Kingdom Hearts 3 again, and go through and platinum it. And I figure what better time to do so than part of Press YYZ's Twitch streaming nights. So what I would be doing is I would just be taking my current save file. I originally meant to go and kind of max out some other things, collect some new items, but I would just be, in this case, sort of going on a New Game Plus and starting the game over. I might not be able to complete it in the span of 3 to 4 weeks, but I figure that there will still be plenty of opportunities for fun commentary. And option number 3...
Alex would love to tune in to those Kingdom Hearts streams.
And option number 3 is a little game. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called... Hold on. Marvel's Avengers.
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. I've heard that.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
I hear that one's a lot like that Anthem game that died.
Yeah, it's gonna end. Avengers Next gonna get canceled
again. We are 2 weeks from the Hawkeye DLC, and they're also retooling.
They're not going to release Spider-Man.
Yes, the character that's gonna save the Avengers, Hawkeye.
All right, Kozi,
I really like Hawkeye
on the Twitch channel. Are you?
Yeah, you know what?
To save that
I think I've already got ready. You want to do it? All right, do it.
It's done. So if you're here watching us live on Twitch, and you should be, because I don't know why you wouldn't be, twitch.tv/PressYYZ, what should Kozi stream next? And we'll hopefully have an answer for you by the end of the show, or it'll be inconclusive and Kozi will figure it out off stream.
And by the way...
Why isn't it Anthem? You should pick up Anthem. That's
Actually,
probably
yeah,
good.
you
Pick up Anthem. Play
Anthem
Avengers
before
with
they
me.
shut
I
down
will,
the
I will
servers.
play with
It's like
you, Kozi, if
$13.
you play Avengers.
One of them's
If
a
you get
dead
Anthem,
game, and the other
it's-
one's Anthem.
I mean, the thing about Avengers, right,
Shit.
is that I'm much more likely to get other people playing alongside me than with Apex Legends. I do want to say, by the way, if you vote for one of these games and they end up not being chosen, they are still on the docket for future months of me playing video games on Press YYZ's Twitch channel. So don't worry.
I mean, you know what I voted for, so it's fine.
Okay.
All right, so complete non sequitur. I don't have a really. Actually, no, I do have a good transition for this.
How do I vote
Speaking
for
of games-
Anthem?
You can't. Speaking of games that are streamed, something that's kind of taken Twitch by storm is Valheim, and I have no idea what it is, but AJ does apparently.
Yeah, please
Yeah?
describe this to me.
Okay. I'm going to do a bad job at that because I do a bad job at explaining these things. But I talked about it a little bit last week. So it is your in a way your typical survival craft sort of experience where you're chopping down trees, you're picking up rocks, you're making new tools to get different items and stuff like that. But this one, so they actually today or yesterday just announced that they have sold over 5 million copies so far on Steam. And it's there's something special and something magical about it. It scratches the kind of procedural Minecraft / No Man's Sky or a Rust like itch. But it handles a lot of it way better than, say, something like Rust, where you could right now, if you were to jump into a game of Rust, you wouldn't exactly know what to do. You're just going to get beaten to death by naked dudes with rocks. That won't happen in this. This is more of this can be a slightly competitive experience if you want it to be, but it is its primary focus is to be a cooperative experience where you and a couple of friends get together and you start kind of build a little village together and whatnot. But like the core premise is, as you work your way up the tech tree, you're going to figure out how to unlock the latest, the next boss, if you will. We'll call it a boss, right? And when you get the boss, when you do that boss is going to drop something that unlocks the next area of this kind of tech tree, if that makes sense, to work your way up towards to go to the next boss after that. Me personally, I've been playing it a lot solo, and I've just been enjoying it's a good podcast game where I just putting somebody talking in the background, and I'm just going through doing my chores, chopping down trees. Actually, a pretty good story that happened to me yesterday. So there's boats in the game that you can craft, and I finally decided after a little while to try and test one out. And so I get onto this boat, and I'm driving, I'm just trying to go through the water and, trying to stay in line with the wind and everything. And I fall off the boat and I have to try and find a way to swim back onto the boat. I cannot do that. So I ended up drowning and my corpse is now in the water and I have to do a corpse run. Which means I have to kind of work my way a little bit back up the tech tree to get, to be able to build another boat and sail back out onto the water and come back. So I do that and I decide, okay, I don't need to go explore the water anymore. I'm going to go into the dark forest. I think I'm ready. I have all my equipment again. And I'm going to take this wagon with me. And while I'm in the dark forest, I'm going to start mining up some copper and some other minerals and stuff so that I can finally get metal weapons and increase my tech tree there. As I'm doing so, my screen starts shaking, and right behind me, this motherfucker right here, if you're watching on stream, you can see my camera here. This is a troll, and he is about 5 times your size. Comes out of nowhere and starts swinging a tree around at me. So me with my wagon full of minerals has to friggin' try to book it back to my my safe zone so that I can try and survive. I ended up making it. All is good, and eventually I did end up defeating the troll. Finally, I finally did that today, actually, which was exhilarating in its own way. The troll was not a boss, but it's just a big random monster that just kind of shows up out of nowhere. And honestly, I think you guys are sleeping on this game. I think with it being in kind of the zeitgeist game right now, the fact, not even the fact that everybody's playing it, but there's a cooperative experience here that you don't get from many other games, where you're working together to kind of build this big world. And it's the fact that it's the newest, hottest one, I think, is what really kind of draws me in. And it's Viking related. That's also topical these days too. So if you think about it, yeah, it's really good. I think, yeah, it's really good. I think it's not too big of a learning curve. When you're playing solo, there's a bigger grind for the materials and stuff than there would be if everybody was working together. But that's also something that I just feel like mentally I needed right now, in terms of, if there's a laundry basket or something that needs to be unloaded, no, I'd rather chop down some trees in this video game. Thank you very much. And
that's why I play Animal Crossing.
Yeah, that's fair. So you might like Valheim.
Well, I mean, speaking of games we needed right now, Alex, you've been talking about this goddamn series for what feels like the entirety of this podcast. How much did you need Persona 5 Strikers?
That's an interesting question, because I'm digging it. I really am. But I'm honestly not that much further than I was last week. I'm about like 5 or 6 hours further, which for a Persona game is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. It feels like picking up right where I left off with Persona 5 in a lot of respects. It feels like nothing has changed, but I'm also just like kind of only like semi into it. I don't know. It's really good. I'm not feeling it right now too much, though. I just finished the first palace, and so things are gonna the jail is what they call it in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But so things are gonna start opening up a lot more when it comes to because in Persona 5 or that's my only real reference point. Persona 5, the first palace is kind of like the tutorial area. So now that I'm kind of through that, it's going to start opening up and start freeing me. And it's not going to stop me every 5 minutes to do a new tutorial. So that'll be nice. And I honestly, at this point, I don't have that much more to say, but it's probably going to be the game that I'm going to be playing for the next month. So,
you know who seems to have more to say, and why I keep throwing my face into my hands?
Who?
Zack Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still paying attention to Twitter, Mitch?
No, you're going to talk about his perfect movie?
Little bit. But that's just because I have Twitter notifications.
I do have more to say on
Gregory
Persona
Miller
Strikers, by the way, but you can talk about your Twitter Zack Snyder news.
Yeah. Okay. The chapters of the Zack Snyder Justice League cut have been revealed for this 4-hour and 2-minute film.
Perfect.
There are 6 chapters in the movie. I don't know why a film needs chapters. Apparently, it also has an intermission.
I mean,
oh hell yeah!
We all had DVDs
it's 4 hours
back
long.
in the day.
I mean, it should have an intermission.
Yeah, they know their audience.
One of my favorite things was going into the DVD menu and seeing what each section of the movie was called based on the DVD's own individual labeling of the different sections.
Can we be honest? This is going to be a perfect movie.
It's going to be it's going to probably be worse than the original, but in completely different ways. I can't wait.
What do you mean worse than the original?
I mean, it's going to be a Zack Snyder movie, so that's exactly what I mean.
Listen, Man of Steel was fucking great.
Uh-huh.
It's true.
That's
It was
all.
the cinematic.
I
masterpiece.
enjoyed
I
Man
liked
of
it.
Steel. I know people like to give all of the Zack Snyder movies crap, but other than Justice League, and apparently this new Zack Snyder cut will feature none of the footage from the Joss Whedon reshoots.
Yeah.
Other than
We've
that
done for a
movie,
while.
Yeah, they got to deal with that Joss Whedon stuff. Oh, it's so
I
disappointing.
mean, to be fair, at least Zack Snyder's not a bad person, or at least we don't know that he's a bad person.
Yeah.
I mean, the only problem I have with the Snyder cut is it releases the same day as the Hawkeye DLC for Avengers. So what am I going to do?
Oh,
You're
man.
gonna watch the Snyder cut, then play the Hawkeye DLC.
I was
I
gonna
also
Doesn't it come
say,
out the same day as? Doesn't it come out the same day as?
Mitch,
Falcon
here's what
Winter
you do.
Soldier?
Whenever there's a
Day
part,
before, I think.
Day before. Okay.
whenever there's a part in Zack Snyder's Justice League where a scene lines up with the original theatrical cut of the film, that's when you play Hawkeye DLC. Because it's like, well, I don't really
Yeah,
need to
so
pay
there's-
attention. I know what happens
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you're gonna be like, how can I
Zack-
can't see
Zack-
what's going on, but that looks like Ben Affleck because it's so dark in all these movies.
So the
we
Snyder
live
cut
in society.
and the Snyder cut and Hawkeye dropped March 18th, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier's first episode, and only its first episode, because Disney said that we're getting episodes 1 and 2 only this month. So presumably we're getting one a week at the end of March. The first episode will premiere March 19th.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Last WandaVision this Friday.
Oh
Can't
my god,
wait.
dude!
Oh
I
my
cannot
God.
wait.
Can we
I'm
make predictions
contemplating
for the
staying
last
up until
WandaVision?
4 in the morning.
The perfect
for it.
show.
It's terrible. It's not perfect by any
It's a
stretch, but
perfect
it is.
show.
It's pretty
I was gonna
perfect.
say,
It's
this is
one
no
of the best
spoilers,
things
but
Marvel Studios has ever made.
It's the best
is-
thing Marvel Studios has
It is
ever
the
made.
best serialized content Marvel Studios has ever made.
That's
Because
not
now they're
saying much
finally
because it's the only thing Marvel Studios has made.
No,
serialized.
Technically, it's Shield. Right?
Technically, it
But
is.
that's like that
Well,
was more
technically-
ABC though.
I mean, technically, all the films together each feel like a serial piece of content, but this is the first time that this content is perfect for this format, and it's the first time I can say that about anything they've done, because I feel like all of these movies would have been better 6 to 8 episode miniseries.
Here's the deal.
Thor: The Dark
and
World, full season. Let's go.
I
They
think.
might have actually made it a good movie if they'd done that.
I think. Oh, that's the next one I have to watch with my boys.
Hell yeah.
Enjoy that.
Yeah, no. I think these long form contents of these series give them an opportunity to tell longer story arcs and better stories than what they've told in the movies, because they're not limited by time.
Oh,
They
for
can choose
sure.
how long they want how long they want to use it for.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm not like committing to this being a prediction, but I am going to be very happy if they do a X-Men style slow motion sequence involving Quicksilver in the final episode. We're all Kind of Funny fans here, and a great communal experience that I had with a bunch of Kind of Funny fans years ago was, so this is around Kind of Funny Live 2. There were a bunch of like fan hosted.
I do want to say, just before we get into talking any more about WandaVision, that we won't talk spoilers for anything that hasn't been an
Sure.
official release from Disney. So we'll be careful in what we talk about.
At a fan organized event ahead of Kind of Funny Live 2, myself and a bunch of other fans went to go and see X-Men Apocalypse. And of course, that movie is, deeply flawed and marked the decline of that particular movie franchise. But the Quicksilver scene in that movie was completely fire. And so if they can recreate
That was the
magic
one
here,
at the X Mansion, right?
Yeah, where
Right.
the X-Men mansion
Yeah.
blows up.
never
That
watched
was
that movie.
friggin' awesome. Yeah, don't watch that movie.
It was
Watch that
completely
scene.
out of place, but it was so cool.
Yeah.
that
Totally
Isn't Oscar Isaac Apocalypse.
Yes.
yeah.
I totally forgot that that's what I spent this past weekend doing, watching what was the one before that? Days of Future Past, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apocalypse.
The good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First Class is also very good.
Yeah, First
Yeah.
Class is great.
Those
Yeah.
first
And
two are
Days of
great.
Future
After
Past
that, they
are
went
good.
off a cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did such a great job of course correcting, but then they weren't able to seal the deal.
I blame
Yeah.
Fox.
I blame Bryan Singer.
I mean, you can kind of blame him for the whole damn franchise at that point, can't you?
But
I
you know what?
can and will.
I blame him
Hugh
for
Jackman-
touching people he shouldn't be touching.
That too. Hugh Jackman is still a perfect Wolverine.
Yeah, he should come back into the Marvel universe. They should just find a way to
Honestly,
get him into the multiverse.
If they're doing multiverse stuff, a cameo makes sense, but I think he's done with the role, honestly.
Yeah,
I know.
I
way
just
to
want to
move
see a
on
cameo.
with Taron Egerton as Wolverine.
Who?
Taron Egerton.
Who?
Dude who played
The guy who played
Elton John.
John
The kid
John.
from the Kingsman,
Kingsman,
Guy
right?
from the Kingsman.
He's pretty. Okay.
He'd be a good
That's an
Wolverine.
interesting choice, but hey guys,
Well,
this was about video games, right?
Yeah.
No, forget it. Fuck it. Who
No,
would
this
you
is our
fan
movie
cast
podcast.
as the next Wolverine? Let's just talk about it. Forget the thing I wanted to talk about, the value of games. We'll talk about that another time. Who would you
Yeah.
fan cast as Wolverine in the MCU X-Men movie?
Robert Pattinson.
No, he's too skinny.
No. He's too Batman.
Henry Cavill?
The Rock.
How about a
No,
serious
he's-
pick?
He's too Black Adam.
Henry Cavill's kind of serious.
It won't be Henry
He
Cavill.
played
He's
a
too
good
old.
Geralt. He's got
He did,
got
but
the
I
gruff.
still feel like there's some weirdness when it comes to the contracts for the stars
Marvel
of
and
DC
DC.
and Marvel films.
yeah.
We haven't seen
He
anyone in
probably-
a starring role crossover. We've seen shit. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, and I don't want to butcher it. The guy that played the original Shazam is also in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie and in Captain Marvel. I cannot remember the name of the actor.
Oh, Zach.
I remember the
Levi.
name, but I don't remember how to pronounce
Zachary
it. I had to
Levi.
look this-
he's in. Yeah.
What?
I know who
Zachary
you're talking
Levi.
about.
No, that, I
not
don't think.
like
no.
the guy, the wizard from Shazam.
Jimon Honsu or God, I'm gonna
the guy
I
who
gotta
goes
Google it.
who in
the
Guardians
wizard.
of the Galaxy.
That
Yes.
guy.
Well,
Yeah.
Zachary
Jimon-
Levi was one of the Thor's people.
I honestly,
yeah, Zach
right?
Levi was in a minor role, but he also didn't. He was recast.
Go.
No, he wasn't recast. It was
No.
someone else. He was recast as somebody else's role, or he replaced
The
another
Prince
actor
Philip
in the
from Once
second
Upon
one
a Time.
because of Once Upon a Time. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Prince
got-
Charming.
I got two picks
All right.
for potential Wolverine casting that I think would be really cool. I would say, and he's kind of been typecast as that type of character, but either Pedro Pascal or Tom Hardy. I think both of those would be real good picks.
Well, Tom Hardy's
Tom
Venom.
Hardy
so
is
it
an
won't be-
interesting one.
I don't think Pedro Pascal has the facial hair for a Wolverine.
Yeah, you put
That's
it
what
on.
makes is for.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
they
not
have
the same.
Merkins.
It's not the same.
I mean,
If you can make
I mean,
Merkins, you can make facial hair.
The facial hair is the same that like he would be needing for Joel for The Last of Us, so it's kind of in the same ballpark.
What if they cast someone really, really young as Wolverine? Because the whole point with Wolverine is that he's been alive since like the 1800s because of his healing factor, like keeping his cells lively or whatever. So what if they're just like, yeah, it doesn't matter what he looks like. He can be 200 years or 2,000 years old. Let's just make him a 12-year-old kid.
Oh, I've got a pick. It's a
Okay.
good one.
I got
This
another
is a
couple ones,
serious-
but
This is a serious pick.
okay.
Daniel Radcliffe.
That's not bad, honestly.
At this point, I could see it.
He's
I
like
think we're far
he's
enough
growing the
removed from
facial
Harry
hair
Potter.
out.
I mean, but though, like the last role I saw him in was Guns Akimbo, and he was still kind of the same, like sort of skittish, like not like hardened badass that I think Wolverine is.
Well, yeah. So, yes, Wolverine is that, but if Hugh Jackman is also a Broadway star,
That's
right?
also true.
So,
Yeah,
and that is not who you typically imagine for it. Now, Hugh Jackman is he can have the nice, soft, good smile face and everything, but Hugh Jackman's face can also do the mean, gruff Wolverine thing.
Like there was
So-
that movie where Radcliffe played the dead guy, the Swiss,
Swiss Army Man.
Swiss Army Man.
Which,
Swiss Army
yeah,
Man.
coincidentally
Wow,
played before our screening of X-Men Apocalypse at that kind of funny viewing.
Oh wow,
Yeah, small world.
tying it all together.
I have a couple other ideas, and one of them, if the Punisher does not come back in some way because he was perfect in that role, I think John Bernthal could be good as Wolverine,
They're keeping him as Punisher, is my understanding.
assuming they bring Punisher back. We don't
Yeah.
know what they're doing with those characters. There are rumors that they've been casting extras for a courtroom scene in Spider-Man. What are they calling it? No Way Home.
No
Is
way
that
home.
the official name of the movie?
Yeah.
Phone
think so?
home.
No Way Home. And if there's a courtroom scene, it's either going to be Daredevil showing up or it's going to be She-Hulk. And I would much rather it be Daredevil.
They've already said they're casting Daredevil. Well, they haven't said it. It's but the rumor mill.
Bring
is
back
that
Charlie
casting
Cox.
Daredevil.
He was perfect in that role.
He was.
I'd like to see Kristen Ritter get a second chance at Jessica Jones as well.
The other actor I think could be perfect for Wolverine, and this is going back to our X-Men talk from a little earlier, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah,
Oscar Isaac could play a mean Wolverine.
He's in the
He's got
same sort of
range
boat as
for it.
Pedro Pascal, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I got nothing else. I just wanted to talk.
Neat.
Oh, I had one more thing.
I have nothing else. I have one
to
more
an MCU podcast, and I'm not upset about that. There are rumors. So Paul Bettany gave an interview that's kind of making the rounds that there is a cameo or an actor that he does scenes with in WandaVision that he thought was phenomenal, and with an actor that he's always wanted to share the screen with. Who do we think that might be?
himself.
George Lucas,
famous actor.
Yeah, he appeared as that one background guy in Star Wars Episode 3.
Now, hear me out.
His
Hear me
family
out.
has a whole toy line.
Sir Patrick Stewart?
No, he's not coming back. No way.
Yeah, I feel like
Please.
his exit from the Marvel movie cinematic universe as a whole was with the Wolverine, I feel.
Yeah, but the
then give me
multiverse.
McAvoy and Fassbender then. That's fine
So
too.
that's who I was about to say. I was gonna say Fassbender because there's a good chance we could see Magneto. Just on the nature of Scarlet Witch as a
the
character.
origin of the character.
Yeah, so
Except their origin now, as per WandaVision, is that her parents were just like people who lived in, what do they call it?
But isn't that also
My
isn't that
theory
also
is that
but that's also in the comics. Her and her brother aren't raised by Magneto, right? They're kidnapped or adopted or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
And
theory
later
is
find
that
out
we're
that
gonna find
Magneto
out-
is their father, right?
Yeah, we're
That's
gonna
true.
find out these people are not actually her parents, and they adopted her or adopted her and her brother. That's my theory.
Fair enough.
Because I feel like at this point they've
Two
already
more
skirted,
sleeps.
they've skirted around the idea of the X-Men are a thing, guys.
We
So,
shall see.
I hope so.
We
I think it's going to be
shall-
more graceful than that.
probably.
Honestly,
probably
I
not
think
gonna be
there's
as
so
on
many
the
fan
nose.
theories out there. People are just going to be disappointed come Friday, but I'm going to be happy no matter what they do.
Oh, me too.
For sure.
I liked what were considered the most boring episodes of WandaVision. So,
I liked every minute of it. There was not one thing I did not like about that show.
guys,
The one thing
they don't punch people, so a bad show.
The one thing I'm glad about is the new Winter Soldier show doesn't seem like it'll be as spoiler heavy as this. It's less mystery based, it looks like, hopefully. There'll be
Yeah.
spy stuff, but I think it's going to be less I have to wake up at stupid early in the morning
I
to
can't
avoid
go on
I'm
Twitter
still
all
gonna do
Friday
that.
morning.
I'm still going to do that.
I need my
think
Twitter
I
fix. I can't.
I think
not go on
that show's going to be
website.
more about. I think that'll be more about following the or weighing
quest for
the
the shield.
decision to. Well, not even that. Just the decision of whether or not to take on that iconic role. And honestly, with the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, I know they wouldn't have planned for that as part of the show, but having a black man take on the mantle of Captain America and being one of the cornerstones of the largest cinematic franchise in the history of the world. Hopefully there's things like that do get touched upon in the show as well. AJ, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to slightly change the subject a little bit, but still be
You do
on
that.
TV
I need
show.
to grab. That's okay. I got to grab water anyway. So you do what you got to
Okay.
do.
Go have a good poop, Mitch. Alex, the Halo show.
Yeah. Yeah. What about
how
it?
are you? You've heard that what's it going to now? What
Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus
yeah.
or something
It
like?
was originally on Showtime, I believe, but Paramount Plus.
Okay. Forward Unto Dawn was good.
Yeah, it was good for an online sort of web series.
Yeah, but then the other one before Halo 5 was not good in my
Nightfall,
opinion.
yeah.
Nightfall, that one.
Nightfall was very low budget for what it should have been.
Yeah.
It had some interesting ideas, but I was pretty disappointed with it.
Do you have any hope for this? this new one. The fact that like Paramount picked it up at all and took it from Showtime, that has to mean that, you know, there's something there that might be good enough. If they're gonna call it Paramount Plus instead of CBS All Access, and just, I don't know.
So, to be honest, no. This is probably going to be pretty bad.
Uh-huh.
But my only, mostly because the show has been in development for like what, 9 years at this point. Like it was literally at the Xbox One showcase that they had Steven Spielberg on screen being like, "Hey guys, Halo TV show," and it never came to fruition. There are a few things that I think are interesting. There's a bunch of characters that are going to be in this show who have only ever been in the books. Specifically, like a bunch of Spartans that like Soren 006 or 0666,
Leonidas, Spartacus,
Vanka 134, Riz 028. Like it's a bunch of these characters who have never been in anything outside of like
Kratos,
the like super
Deimos,
Hades.
Kratos.
Wait, we've gone from talking about Marvel Earth 616 to talking about Halo Spartan 732 or some bullshit like that.
Kai,
is that what I'm catching up on?
Thank you very much. Yeah, pretty much.
Close enough.
But and also very interestingly, like a character who is like this ultra obscure. I don't even know how to like Kon Ha, who's like this. He's like this this like outer colonies leader who's like, you know, met John at this like super moment before the original series. It's like all of these really kind of obscure characters that I'm like, who is this show for? Is it for Halo fans or is it for like your general audience? Because
it sounds like they're doing the same thing where with the games, where they made the story of the games for the readers of the books, not for the people who played the games.
Which is kind of like, it's both concerning, but also like has me optimistic, because it's like if they pull it off well, they could really like have this whole other facet of like, I think for the games, my biggest problem with like Halo 5 was the fact that they leaned so heavily on book readers, where it's like that's such a small minority of your audience that it's like you really should, the game should service themselves, and then the books should then service the games and like to help like reinforce it. But I don't think the games need to be reliant on them, and that's what I'm worried this show is going to be. When we actually see something, I'll be interested. But like even that little promo image that they used to show like, hey, this is gonna be on Paramount Plus. It was concept art for Halo 4. So it really shows that they have fucking nothing for this show. And so, you know, if it ever actually exists, I will have comments to say, but right now I don't. I like, it says 2022, but I don't think that that's even, I'll believe it when I see it.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Pretty much.
I mean, speaking of wishful thinking, I think that's a great transition right into our topic of the show. As Alex runs away. Okay, so this week we got some news from Sony as to some more PlayStation VR titles are going to be coming to us in 2021, as well as the announcement last week, I believe it was, that they're developing a next generation VR headset. We've all discussed VR previously on the show. We've talked a lot about what we feel like the future of VR can be. We know it's going to be a niche product. It's going to be a subset of gamers who get into these experiences. That being said, we've all got dreams of what VR could be or what we'd want in VR. So I think tonight what we're going to do, we're going to have a roundtable discussion on what games and or franchises we'd like to see in VR, or what experiences we feel would best suit VR as we move into the future of the medium. How's that sound? Anything I missed? Anything we want to clarify before we get going?
No, sounds good to me.
Cozy?
No, sounds pretty good.
All right. So, who wants to kick us off? Because I got nothing. I got one, but I'm saving it to the end.
Okay, so Something that I kind of like envisioned that would be a really interesting VR experience. So let's say you took the horror aspect and a little bit of the claustrophobia of, say, Alien Isolation, but made it set in a city that you had to escape from because Godzilla was attacking.
Oh,
Make it like Cloverfield, the movie, the game, but set in VR.
Vomiting.
Another way to vomit.
Yeah.
So,
So I just envision something like, oh hey, you're in in an apartment building or something, and oh shit, the monster's attacking and you got to escape, but you know what? Hey, there's going to be all these people in your way, and you got to try and like maneuver that somehow. We've seen there's been a lot of games and tech demos of VR where they make you walk a plank over top of a city and you have to look down. Turn that into a game and give you a reason to try to escape the city, and whether that be, at some point you get down to the road and you have to hotwire a car, and you use your special fancy wand controllers to try and do this little puzzle game or something, and then you're driving a car and you got to try and navigate the streets that Godzilla is stomping all through. I think something like that would be super, super cool.
Yeah, I think little experiences like that, as opposed to you being in full control of the character, is probably a good way to go about any kind of survival game in VR, of like give you a time frame to get out of a thing. Like if they were to, on this same like train of thought, what about something like the Saw franchise? Put the Saw franchise in VR and you have to get out of these traps in a certain way before your phantom limb is cut off or something like that.
Games that are puzzle based work really well in VR, I would say.
Well, so there's a game called what's it called? Static. And it has you in traps that you constantly have to get out of with your hands. It's Saw-esque.
Interesting.
You got to like keep fiddling with all the electronics and stuff on your hands, or look at the rooms and figure out how to get out. It's very Saw-like.
So I was just thinking this, and I realized that this is a mechanic that doesn't necessarily have to be relegated to solely the realm of VR, but I think it would work really well in the realm of VR, which is that, in any of these sort of horror-like experiences where you and a bunch of other people are trying to get out of a bad situation as fast as possible, it would be really, really cool if when your character dies, instead of like starting back at the last checkpoint, the perspective shifts over to one of the other characters in your company. Because typically the way that these horror movies work, or horror games as well, right, is, if you start out with a large group of campers, and by the very end, you're left with 2 or 1 camper, or maybe even no campers at all. And
like Until Dawn.
I was gonna say exactly. Just how you're describing Until Dawn, where I survived with everyone but one character.
I guess what I'm thinking of though is something where it is more of like a third person, or first person in the case of VR like experience, as opposed to Until Dawn, which is, in the same spirit as something like, Telltale's adventure games.
So something kind of like Zombie U, where when the character you're controlling dies, you assume control of another character in that same world, and there's a chance you could go and find that person's gear, that character's gear, or whatever, but you're also going to come face to face with a zombie. Something like that, but in VR.
Yeah, except the idea is that like you're all part of like the same group, and so it's like when person number 10 dies, and you switch over to person number 9, and then 8, 7, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that could be cool. That could be very cool. Anyone have anything else in horror/survival, or do we want to maybe?
Actually, my biggest. So, I know I'm the only person here who has played Half-Life Alyx. I am pretty sure. And that game has a moment where you meet Jeff, who, not to spoil, but is somebody who you cannot kill and you have to sneak around. It's a very common trope in horror, in like horror games, where you reach the enemy where it's like you cannot kill them, you just gotta try and exist with them in the same place. and that made me think how well Valve did horror in their game, specifically first-person horror in VR. And so for me, a game series that excelled at horror, that had that very same enemy trope at times, I'm talking about Dead Space. I think Dead Space would be a great game to do in VR. Mostly because it's like, if you switch the perspective from third person to first person, I think you would still achieve a lot of the same effects, if not more intense than original Dead Space. Having to aim at the limbs to shoot like cut off the limbs for
you could still maintain that same level of granular finite controller detail with VR controllers. I think that's a great fit for VR, honestly.
Yeah, I think especially with Half-Life Alyx showing that it's like with the hand controls of like pulling things towards you, you already have an in-lore explanation for that, because you have like the gravity, like not gravity gloves. I can't remember what it's called in it's not stasis.
The gravity gloves?
Yeah, the grab. The grab ability that you have in Dead Space anyway. So it's like you could use that. You can pull objects from your environment and fling them at necromorphs. I think Dead Space would be perfect. And I think that would really just enhance the horror that much more. And I just want a new Dead Space game more than anything. I know it's never going to happen, but like even if it was VR, I would take it.
Horror game that's set in the universe of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. What's it called?
Something Protocol?
The Callisto Protocol.
Callisto Protocol, yeah, and that's done by the same designer as Dead Space. That'll be the ultimate litmus test of like, is Dead Space even can Dead Space? I know it's different, but it's like it's made by the same people. Can horror game like this still exist today? And I hope it's good.
We will find out, I suppose. I couldn't end this episode without... I couldn't participate in this episode, not that it's ending anytime soon, without mentioning a specific franchise that I need there to be some sort of VR experience for, because I love it and it needs to be real, and VR is the closest I'll get, and that's Pokemon. Give me something. I know Nintendo is not a VR company.
Labo.
Nintendo's not a...
Yeah, Labo VR.
Yeah.
No.
With the Pokeball controller?
No, that's not what I want at all. I want it. I want
all
them to
you're gonna
license
get from
that to
Nintendo.
somebody, similarly to how they've licensed it to like Niantic and stuff for Pokemon Go. Give it to an actual studio that knows to make actual VR games, and give me something Pokemon. That's all.
Give it to Camouflage.
Here's the thing, Mitch. There are two main cornerstones when it comes to interacting with Pokemon, right? There are battling Pokemon battles, battling with Pokemon, and then there is, just cuddling up with your Pokemon, treating them like your pets, which has been something that they've rolled out over time gradually with Pokemon Go, with all the AR functionality with that title. Like, are you leaning more towards battling or more towards cuddling?
Definitely not cuddles.
No?
No.
You don't want to.
He's got his
with
Pikachu-shaped body pillow for that.
I've got my Dreepy and Croconaw Bulbasaur plushes around here somewhere.
Croconaw, very underrated Pokemon. I like him a lot. He was one of my favorite Pokemon cards growing up because I love the
Croconaw's great
art behind him. Hell yeah.
Croc.
Speaking of which, did you see the announcement that the Pokemon cards they got in the US at McDonald's are coming to Canada?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Are they actually coming to Canada, though, or are they going to be consumed by scalpers en masse?
Well, I can confirm that McDonald's Canada is bringing them to Canada. Whether or not they, succumb to scalpers is beyond our control. I have reached out to my contacts at McDonald's Canada to offer my services as a subject matter expert in the field of Pokemon. They have yet to get back to me. They asked my rates, and I said pro bono as long as I get some cards out of it. So we'll see how that goes.
If I can guarantee that I can get some cards, I actually legit might pick up a Happy Meal or something.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna try. I'm sure as hell gonna try once those eventually launch. They haven't announced when they're coming yet.
I'll have to get them for my boys.
Absolutely.
You'll have to try.
All right, like, what's the deal with these cards? Are they special for some reason?
No.
Why does everybody want them?
25th anniversary cards from McDonald's.
Can you play with them? Are they part of like the playing?
They're real cards.
They're TCG legal.
Are they cards that like are only available at McDonald's, or is there like
Yeah.
Okay. Now I see the incentive. Okay.
Limited supply.
Do they do
I
like
mean, they're
combo
always limited
cards?
supply.
Like
Sorry?
a Fryertle?
No.
There was a set that was like team cards with 2 Pokemon in the same card, but those were, I think, short-lived.
They should consider doing like special Pokemon cards. You remember there used to be like the Fry Guys and like the Hamburger?
The Hamburger.
Grimace. Don't forget Grimace. Grimace was
Grimace.
nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Don't forget it. He gave me nightmares.
Anyway,
I think it's interesting that like the most iconic McDonald's Land's characters outside of Ronald McDonald are all the villains. Like nobody remembers like, oh yeah, the McDonald's
Mayor McCheese.
friends. Oh yeah, I guess so. He's not as iconic.
Yeah,
as
the
Grimace,
Hamburglar,
though.
Grimace.
Isn't the Hamburger good?
Hamburglar.
He steals
He
hamburgers.
steals things.
It's in the name. He's
But
evil.
I thought he was like Robin Hood. He would give them to poor kids who didn't have
Steals the burgers from the rich to give to the poor kids who are eating them.
So let's try and
All right.
marry the two different conversations we're having here. What would a McDonald's Land VR game look like?
game.
being able to go through the play place in VR.
It would be
I guess
it would be a stoner
can't wait to go-
millennial's dream
I want
to get high and go into McDonald's.
I want to
and
see
VR.
all the vomit in the ball pit personally in VR.
Yeah.
Don't forget the poop.
It's not just the
always
vomit, it's
poop.
the poo. It's the poo, yeah. My sister used to work at a place that was a giant one of those, and they'd have to go in at the end of the night and clean all the poo out of it. Every night.
Clerdle in the
Horrifying.
chat
I mean, they
says-
wouldn't shut it down. They wouldn't shut it down during the day to clean it.
Probably not.
Horrifying.
Clerdle in the chat says it
I'm
would
never
be
having
like
kids.
the NES McKids game, which yeah, I mean that's interesting because the McKids game introduced a lot of weird lore to the McDonald's Land universe. That game like culminates with you going into space because you meet up with like that one short-lived like space-themed McDonald's mascot. I don't know if I'm ready to go to space in this McDonald's game. I think that we should keep it like solely grounded on terraforming.
To the moon.
Seems Alex, you coined the term "to the moon" a couple weeks ago. It was you that came up with it. Do you think we
You
should go-
coined it?
Yeah, I was the one who personally came up with it.
Should we go to the moon in the McDonald's Land VR game?
Yeah,
Yes.
all the McDonald's characters say "Bye GME."
Wouldn't they be
Diamond
saying buy
hands, baby.
McDonald's?
Okay,
Diamond hands.
for a serious McDonald's game, you play as a clown, and then you live in this small town, and you go attack kids.
and you eat them.
And
So wait,
you
it's
eat them.
McDonald's,
Eat
but
their fear.
but it's in the world of the Joker.
no, it.
It.
Oh,
And then there's a child orgy at some point. That's weird. It was the 80s.
Didn't they cut that out of? Didn't
They cut that out of the
movie?
movies, but not
Okay,
the book.
good.
A child orgy?
Yeah, the book has a child orgy. It's how they break.
It's how they become adults.
It's how they break the one girl out of the spell or something.
Listen,
Freaking
listen.
weird, dude.
Stephen King was very
Is-
much addicted to cocaine during that
is-
time. It was
What?
the 80s.
In all serious,
it was
in
a
all
different
serious-
time.
In all seriousness, a world I would want to visit in VR. Not, I don't know what the game would be necessarily. Maybe it's just experiential or something. Quahog. I've been binging Family Guy now that it's
Family Guy,
on
yeah.
Disney Plus Star in Canada, and Quahog would be a fun world to just walk around in and experience.
would it be like playing the South Park games, but I don't know.
Those games are
like,
real good.
Like because the
Wow.
South Park games take the aesthetic of
first
watching the
real
show. So if you were in VR in Quahog, what if the game was like a remake of Custer's Revenge from the Atari, but you're playing as Quagmire?
Oh my god.
Cozy, whatever it is you were just showing on the stream is going to get banned from YouTube.
Yeah,
just
please
so you
don't
know.
shoot. Please
Just so you're aware.
Don't show
It's-
Custard's Revenge. please don't show Custard's Revenge.
Was that like in the video recommendations?
I hope
Not
not.
anymore. Nope, definitely not.
Don't Google
Because
it.
like I legitimately didn't even
God.
like I legitimately didn't even look at the recommended videos after that was over. That being the 1963 McDonald's commercial.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
Quahog would be a fun place to explore. If they, it'd be funny if they made it like an adventure game in Quahog,
Yeah.
where you have to like walk around, talk to people, and like solve
Like
puzzles.
you are a new character in the show or something.
Yeah, you design your character, and you
Just
talk
stay
to
away
everybody.
from the pedophile old man, and stay away from Quagmire.
Giggity
Oh
giggity.
my God.
All right, what other games or experiences do we want to see brought into VR as the medium matures in the future?
Can I bring
Anybody?
two options?
Yeah,
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so number one, I already kind of talked about, but we need adventure games in VR. I think there's a lot that we can do with adventure games in the VR space that really hasn't been touched, like a full-blown Monkey Island sequel in VR would be really hot.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be first person. We've seen things like Astrobot do or like Moss or Ghost Giant do things in like not like in a third person type view that was really, really good. So like, and then my second one is I think we can all agree that Astrobot is one of the best games on PSVR. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I did not play it.
Oh, you guys should play it. Missing out.
It's a thing where it's like, so like I have my PSVR unit. I'm pretty sure that I already have purchased Astra's whatever the VR one is called, but it's just setting up the VR headset is such a hassle that I'm always so dispirited from doing so. One day I will, and I'll go through with it. But yeah,
I'd like to see more 3D platformers in the style of Astrobot, like just like with the way you peek around the environment, you can turn around, and the way you platform. Because really, that's the only major one. Like Moss did it, and I guess as well, but not to the same extent that Astrobot really went for it. So, and I don't know what that looks like. It won't be Nintendo, but imagine a VR like Astrobot Mario.
This is such a weird poll, but so we all know how Duck Hunt Dog is a playable character in Smash Bros, right?
We do.
Yes.
Yep.
But he's actually not
Confirmed.
he's not actually called Duck Hunt Dog in the game. He's just called Duck Hunt because in Smash Bros
duck.
canon, it's the dog, the duck, and then the third person, which is the player that is like shooting the cans that the dog throws out or shooting the discuses, for example. And in the like reveal trailer for Duck Hunt Dog in Smash Bros, there's actually a brief part where we zoom out of the screen and we see somebody with the zapper shooting at the Duck Hunt Dog's discuses and whatnot. Like, I mean, this is never going to happen, but it would be real funny if they were to create a Duck Hunt Dog that was based around what you're describing, Nathan, which is a gameplay world where it is in third person and you are looking down on the Duck Hunt Dog from afar, and maybe you're occasionally helping him by like shooting his cans or discuses and helping get them to safety or whatever.
100%. I think that could be cool.
Jumping off of that quickly before we get back to talking about what games or whatever we want to see in VR. Nintendo has always been about doing things weird and unexpected, and not exactly what people expected, or not exactly what people would have anticipated a company like them to do. If Nintendo were to partner on an actual VR headset that is not made of cardboard, which of the major headsets do you think would be the best for Nintendo's IPs?
PSVR.
Well, at that point,
but they wouldn't work with PlayStation.
At that point, I don't think it's dependent on the headset, because for the most part, besides PSVR, all the headsets are relatively like the same, like at least spec wise. I mean, I know the Oculus, like the portable Oculus ones, are a little bit underpowered just because the whole computing process is happening in the headset. But I think it's more about like the developer that does it and the platform that it's on. Because if it's on like Steam, then you would actually be able to take advantage of a Vive or an Index. but I don't see Nintendo ever going outside of their own ecosystem. I would see Sony more likely to do that because we've actually seen them do that. Nintendo, no way in hell. If it's not mobile, they're not going to it.
Okay.
Yeah, they just don't want to take chances. Like Nintendo's it's very hard for Nintendo to take chances.
Yeah, especially on something as undetermined as VR. Like, I mean, Half-Life Alyx is probably the VR game that has the most production value put into it, and I would bet my life that game has not made its development cost back, and it's because it didn't need to.
The only way I can see it having made back its development cost is through the sale of VR headsets.
Even
since
then,
Valve is also manufacturing the headsets, there's probably bigger margins on those and trying to get people into that ecosystem. But I do agree with you that it likely hasn't.
Do we have totals on headsets? And because last time
Sony's put out numbers, but not recently.
Yeah, well, they said they were above 5 million last year.
All I can say is I'd be bummed out if Nintendo somehow partnered with Facebook and Oculus. I'd be bummed out about
that. More than anything.
That would be the one I'd see happening more likely than not, honestly, just because of the established company behind it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
there's at least some monetary incentive.
Maybe a headset you would just put the Switch in.
Slide it in. With regards to Oculus and Facebook and Nintendo potentially going with them, like when I think about like weird experimental Nintendo, for whatever reason, the game that always comes to mind is something like WarioWare Twisted, where you're twisting your Game Boy Advance every which way. And it's like, I can totally see Nintendo being like, oh, we're going to make this super crazy VR game where you're like twisting your body every which way. And so I can see a company like Nintendo being like, it's really important that we not have wires obstructing play when you're in the middle of a game. And so something like the Oculus Quest in that regard is very much the prime headset that they would probably want to go with.
I could see WarioWare being a good fit for VR in some fashion.
Yeah, I actually totally am done with that.
Mm-hmm. Games. Let's talk about games. Mm-hmm. Let's get back to talking about games, franchises, things we want to love and see move into this medium going forward. AJ, go for it.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if this will spark conversation or another idea, but the very first like actual VR game that I played was when I got my PS VR headset. Was Skyrim VR, and while I didn't dislike it, the way I actually found that I wanted to play that game was with the headset on, and just being able to look around like normal. But what they ended up doing in that was you had two options. You could use the Move controllers, right, which makes perfect sense, or you could use a regular controller. But if you did that, you are still kind of like aiming the reticle in the middle of the screen, in the middle of your view, with your head. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted the controller just to control my body and just to have that separation. Like I wanted to be able to look over there and then turn the stick to turn my body, and then point that direction if I wanted to. I don't know if that's necessarily going to spark any past like VR game experiences you guys have had. But,
I think talking of controls, I think that's something that does have to change moving forward with VR. I think right now the way the games are controlled, and I think Valve had a really good idea with the index controllers. There needs to be a finer games need to be designed for VR first, in a similar way to Half-Life Alyx, and it needs to take advantage of everything that platform can do. And we need a more granular control method, which is why I'm excited about finding out what Sony's next VR controller looks like, because it won't be a motion controller that was created for the PlayStation 3 to compete with the Wii.
Let's not hate on that controller, because that controller's
dude.
No, that controller's been used on 3 separate systems, for better or for worse. It's managed to survive 3 different generations because it's worked on PS3, PS4, PS5. What other controller's done that?
GameCube.
Nah,
The GameCube went away
no.
for a while,
GameCube.
though.
Technically, via USB, it came back. Yeah, you get USB adapters.
It keeps coming back from the dead,
was that like
regardless.
The
an official
GameCube controller is
same
also
franchise,
terrible.
Yeah, it's
I
a really
will
weird
agree with
layout.
that. I don't think it's a good controller.
Why do
but
people
it
like that
also
controller?
It also
Smash
just
Bros.
doesn't fucking die either.
People
Smash,
only like
yeah.
it for Smash. Yeah.
I
I
don't
remember
get
my
it.
Wavebird. That was nice.
But
I mean, a good point made in the chat as well. Nintendo has reproduced a number of their controllers for different systems. We've seen them bring back
NES.
the NES controller for the NES Mini and the Switch Online thing. Same with the SNES. So like Nintendo loves dipping their
But up
toes
until
back into the
recently,
well
that
with
was
their
only two
controllers.
systems because they were only usable on those systems until they just brought them back recently.
I meant more so
for
the
those
designs,
games.
like the designs of those controllers. But
You know, that square design on that NES controller, not great.
no, it's
Yeah,
not.
really
It hurts.
digs into your hand. But I will say, when
I
it
don't
comes to
get
VR, I mean, Half-Life, I think I'm gonna keep bringing it back because it's my biggest point of reference when it comes to VR because it is my favorite game in VR. Really went to show a franchise being reinvigorated by VR existing as a platform. And besides the fact that I think every one of Valve's franchises could totally work in VR, especially because they're like totally willing to just like spend an absurd amount of money on VR as a platform. My one franchise that I think would actually benefit, and I'm gonna sound a little hypocritical because I've yelled about another franchise doing a very similar thing. I think Metal Gear could totally do VR pretty well. I think stealth is I think stealth and horror are like the two best things for VR. I think stealth just in general. I know we're getting that Splinter Cell VR from Ubisoft, and that's the franchise I was yelling about because I want a more traditional Splinter Cell game. But like, I know the fact that Metal Gear will never be the same because of Hideo Kojima not being involved with that franchise anymore.
Yeah.
So just fuck it. Get weird with it. Like, you could do some of that weird, like, the weird, like, you know, plugging your controller into the player 2 slot. You could do some more stuff like that in a virtual reality environment. Not that specifically, but like, you know, things like that. I feel like Metal Gear could be a really cool franchise because of just the mindfuckery of the entire franchise.
I feel like gradually we all need to kind of like grow to accept the fact that Hideo Kojima is not really going to be involved with the Metal Gear Solid series in a huge capacity ever again. But I will say, like, that you know, pitch that you just gave only made me think, man, it would be great if Hideo Kojima was in charge of a VR centric Metal Gear Solid game, because he would do so many cool things involving it. He'd speak directly to the player and be like, don't take off the VR headset during like a very intensive moment. Like, if you take off the VR headset now, everybody dies or something.
I'll kill your family.
Hold your breath or the game explodes. Like,
Hideo Kojima himself, I will kill your family.
I'm standing behind you with a knife.
Controller port 2 and
I do want to just say quickly, in Beat Saber, there are certain challenges in that game where you have to basically move your arms as little as possible while playing through a track.
Those are terrible challenges.
They're
really
awful,
hard.
but I can see in a narrative game,
they're hard.
in a narrative-based game, I can see that kind of thing actually being used to great effect, where like you have to remain as still as possible to avoid detection, like in a stealth game like Metal Gear Solid. So yeah, I think there's genuinely a lot of potential in an idea like that.
I got a bone to pick with you, Alex.
I'm ready.
Kozi kind of just brought it up. You said stealth and horror make the best VR games. You're wrong, because the best VR game of all time is Beat Saber, which is why we need to see a resurgence of the plastic instrument genre in VR. I'm talking Rock Band in VR being an actual thing.
VR's already such
Guitar Hero being an actual thing.
VR is already such a huge barrier to entry itself. To add on more cost to it, I feel like is a mistake.
Everyone's still got those plastic instruments lying around.
I saw
Honestly,
mine.
like I think VR is a good platform for these games to continue to thrive into the future. I Like, I'd love to see Fuser in VR. I think that would be awesome. I don't know why it hasn't already been ported. And things like Rock Band and Guitar Hero could definitely make a comeback in the medium.
So
Especially if you did something, maybe if you did something just with the controllers themselves and less about. You okay there? Okay. All right. Make it less about the plastic instruments and more about the like we were talking earlier about the detail in the controllers themselves, and have that be enough tracking to understand, okay, in a certain range, that's what you're doing, or it is air drums or air guitar or something. Just that Rockstar Fantasy seems so perfect a fit for VR that I don't know why someone other than seeing Beats It. So,
I could have sworn there was a Rock Band VR.
I'm pretty sure there was.
Is. We talked about this very early in the podcast where somebody brought up to me. I thought
on Oculus Rift.
Yeah, it was an Oculus exclusive, I believe, and it did not do super well
because nobody had the headsets yet. Probably.
Yeah, that's still when
I think it came out too early for it to thrive, to be honest. And it did require you having a Rock Band 4 guitar controller. Again, did need you to have a wireless controller, didn't necessarily have everything you needed out of the box. And I think finding a good way to do that with the equipment you're already getting in the box with the controllers themselves would be a good way to do it. I know there's nothing like strumming away on that plastic guitar, but I think finding a way to do it with the included controllers would be ideal.
It should have, Rock Band VR should have also come to the PSVR, and you use the Move controllers as drumsticks.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be great.
Like the Wii Music demo from years ago, where that guy was drumming
that is
nothing.
How are you tracking your foot?
Jump.
So
you put a speaker or you put a microphone at the bottom of the controller.
A nice double bass jump.
It comes with a tap dance shoe or something, so that the
something like that, so it can hear it. Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a different suggestion that's still in sort of the same vein as all these peripherals. In Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, they introduced this mechanic where you can hold somebody up using a banana that you're basically holding like a gun. What if they release an official Metal Gear Solid plastic banana instrument that you use as your gun in Metal Gear Solid VR? Because when you have the VR headset on you, you don't know that it's a gun or a banana. It can be either or.
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
I like the way you work it. No
Mitch, does it get your seal of approval?
I don't see why not. I think just more experiences that get people wanting to talk about or use VR in some way is a win for the industry, because I think that the medium of VR is, as niche as it is, something that games needs in order to continue to foster strong creative output from the hundreds of studios that are working on video games in general. Just give them something new to do. Yes, AJ.
Okay, so I just thought of something. So I'm pretty sure something like Tabletop Simulator is compatible with VR.
It is.
So I just thought of, okay, well, what if let's extend that to, let's make it like actually a Dungeons and Dragons world in a way where you're just in first person as your character, right? And you and a few, 4 other people or something like that. You form your own party and you go do missions and stuff like that. But in VR, but it's not real time. It's turn based, like Dungeons and Dragons, where maybe you have to mimic rolling dice or something like that, and then you can go and do your spell or your attack or whatever you want to do from your perspective. But everything is based on your perspective on this play field or whatever. Because sometimes it can be hard to articulate that in a proper tabletop setting. Like, oh, can I see this person from here or not? And if you can in this VR space, well then, yeah, you have a chance to succeed on your dice roll or whatever. I don't know.
There's a game I played that was something that was kind of like a tabletop board game, and it would open up around you as the world changed. I'm trying to remember what it was called now. I can't remember. I will say, I think VR has done some really interesting things in terms of like games. Like I was talking about A Fisherman's Tale earlier on PSVR, and that's really a game which you can get very inexpensively when it goes on sale now. That's everybody should play if you've got PlayStation VR. There's so many good small indie titles, and that one really, like, it blew me away. The whole premise of Maquette is this game where you've got this little cabin inside of a house, and it's your cabin. When you open the door, all you see is a large view of your cabin, and you can take items from your room and put them into the little cabin, and all of a sudden they're giant in your room, and that's kind of your puzzle solving.
Right.
And I love that game. It was funny. It was quirky. Like there's Ghost Giant, about like it's these dioramas that you're constantly like fooling around with that like move up and down, and you do things in the city and they just expand around you as you're like fooling around with these dioramas, and you're the Ghost Giant and you're trying to help this kid deal with grief. As his mother's like in bed, you find out slight spoiler, but like is dealing with deep depression, and he's trying to support his whole household and this little kid.
Yeah.
VR's told me a lot of great stories over the years, and I want to make sure that they're keeping that story medium going.
I have an entirely different thing that I think would work well in VR that has nothing to do with telling stories.
Go for it.
That cool? We've all been cooped up in our homes for the better part of a year because of this stupid pandemic. Why has no company capitalized on virtual experiences for the things we want to do but cannot do?
Like porn.
I was thinking
There's
more like
plenty of
Disneyland,
virtual
but yeah,
reality porn. There's
Not a
plenty of
PlayStation VR.
You used to be able to use that, but they took
Not
that
on PS5.
functionality away.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
browser on PS5.
Yeah.
No, I'm surprised there hasn't been more of this like virtual tourism through VR become a bigger thing as 2020 progressed.
Everybody abandoned VR for just going to Fortnite and putting all their virtual experiences there, like concerts and stuff.
Hey, we got a virtual Post Malone Pokemon thing that was something.
I watched about
Fortnite?
2 minutes of that and noped right out of there.
You should
Who's
watch the
Post
rest. It was
Malone?
only about 15 minutes. You know that song from that movie with the Spider-Mans?
Which one?
Sunflower was him, right?
Oh,
That
hey.
he helped. Yeah, he was a part of it.
I don't know.
But he didn't do the good song from that movie. What Up, Danger?
No, he did not do that one. That was Jaden Smith, wasn't it?
No.
I don't know if
Black Caviar?
Jaden Smith was Black Caviar and Blackway.
Blackway,
Was What's Up
yeah.
Danger. Jaden Smith did
Jaden
do.
Smith do?
Jaden Smith was on Spider-Verse soundtrack, that's for sure. He also was on the Miles Morales soundtrack as well. So
Maybe that's what I was thinking was Miles Morales, not Spider-Verse. My bad.
He's on both. He is on both.
Okay.
I've solved it.
Cool.
Desert bus, but you're going to the airport and you're getting on a plane and it becomes Microsoft Flight Simulator, but you're just a passenger in coach and you have to sit on the plane, and you can walk up and down the aisle if you want for the duration of the flight. But you play it like it's like Desert Bus.
Does somebody at any point try kicking your seat?
All the time.
That sucks. I don't know if I want to play that.
Well,
everything else about the pitch sounded great.
Maybe the game is how you deal with that. And if that means you turn around and you punch a kid.
I was going to say, like, can you like straight up get violent? Can you like enact retribution in this game?
Maybe. Maybe you don't want to do that on an airplane, though. They'll toss you out.
I don't remember what it was for, but I remember once like taking a super early flight at like 5 a.m, and I was desperately trying to fall asleep in my seat, and there was this couple with this baby that just kept crying, and it was so utterly annoying. I do want to say to get back on the serious track, I do agree with you, Mitch, that yeah, we definitely do need more of these VR experiences that just sort of are experiential and allow you to visit places that normally you would not have easy access to, especially in these pandemic times. It's one of the things that actually kind of sucked me into Spider-Man in the first place, is that it was a opportunity to visit New York City without actually having to go through the hassle of visiting that place right now. Is there any place in particular, though, that you were thinking this hypothetical VR game would whisk us away to?
I already said it. I want to go to Disneyland.
Oh. There's a Disneyland game.
Yeah, it's on
Disneyland Adventure. It's on Game Pass. I started it. It's not great.
Is that a Kinect game?
It was a Kinect game that they removed the Kinect features from to port to PC.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
It's not great.
Because I tried those Kinect games and they were bad.
I still want to finish it because I do have Game Pass, and it'll give me a way to, soften the blow of not getting to go on the trip that I wanted to go on last year to celebrate my wedding, of going to Europe and going to Disneyland Paris and Italy and all these places that sound great in theory, and then the world did what the world.
Yeah, they've got roller coaster like tech demos and stuff in VR. So why not just put the whole park in VR and let people go there, and then make it like an instanced world where there's actually other people there? I don't know, twerking or whatever they do in Disneyland.
Doing the Fortnite dances.
Doing Fortnite dances. Yep. Mickey Mouse just twerking away. Yeah. That'd be.
I mean, now that we're talking about Mickey Mouse twerking and
go on, not
so much video games. How do you guys feel about wrapping this up? Any final thoughts on where we want to see VR go in the future? How to continue the medium?
I do want to offer one last suggestion on my part. I'm going to keep it quick. Because this kind of, I feel like this touches on a lot of things that we previously talked about over the course of the past hour. I do want to see a Soulsborne-like experience in VR. One thing that we've seen over time is that generally, like, shorter VR experiences tend to work better than longer ones. I don't know that I want to spend 200 hours playing a Soulsborne title in VR, but if they could figure out a way to keep it short, I'd love to see what that looks like. What makes Dark Souls and Bloodborne and the like really, really cool is the fact that at no point during the experience you can pause. At very few times during the experience are you ever truly safe. And I feel like being able to kind of crane your neck around and, use it to observe your environment and get an advantage over your surroundings, or, be further shocked by that, like, it has potential to really kind of multiply the sense of anxiety and wonder of that kind of experience.
I just want to see whatever Valve does next. They're a company that is willing to put an unlimited amount of money into VR. So whatever Valve does next, I'm all in for. And I think they really are like one of the only companies, aside from honestly PlayStation, that are actually like keeping VR alive.
Yeah,
like with like
fair.
Actually developing like first party games using their money and like influence to actually like keep it alive. I think Oculus is doing that a little bit, but Oculus is more making deals with other developers, where Valve and PlayStation are like using their own developers to actually make new experiences and pushing the medium forward. So whatever Valve makes next, mostly because Valve is the only company that the headset I can actually use, or that I own, I can actually experience their games. So I'm very curious to see what they do next, whether it be an existing IP or if they actually decide to do something new.
Or they give you Portal 3 in VR and make you puke a lot.
Yeah, I was just saying, you just vomit.
Don't look so happy about that. That would be vomit inducing. You know it.
Worth it.
There's a whole there's a 14-minute video on YouTube about how they talked about how they did movement for Half-Life Alyx and how they specifically designed it so you wouldn't throw up. So if any company could do Portal right, besides, I mean, obviously Valve would be that company because they would spend so much money figuring out how to make you not puke.
Go watch a video of Portal or Portal 2 within your headset. Just go to YouTube and watch something, and then tell me that Portal could work.
It has to be a different. It has to be though. It has to be a different game than Portal 2. Then it has to be a Portal game, but it has to be designed with VR in mind. And I think Valve would be willing to do that.
They did briefly work on
7.5 years
a Portal VR concept, like during the early phases of working on what would become Half-Life Alyx. And in the final hours of Half-Life Alyx, they talk about that, I believe.
As well, in the lab, which is like the free software that you get when you download Steam VR, it also has like a huge like Aperture Science like addition to it. You never get access to a portal gun, but it is still something that is in that universe. And I think it's like it was like one of the ultimate points where it like showed like what could you do with this universe in VR.
My prediction is that we very likely will get a Portal VR game, but it's not gonna look like what we previously have gotten on consoles and PC. It will be a little bit different.
For sure.
So I know I spoke at some point on this podcast, like last year at some point, about playing No Man's Sky in VR, and the specifically like the uniqueness of the controls and what they did with the move controllers as like your they almost treat it like full HOTAS sticks. So I think something similarly in that vein, something else like a No Man's Sky, or somehow make No Man's Sky and VR a little more accessible to and not limited to just like PSVR or something like that. But the other kind of game that I think would be well suited for something like VR is something like Valheim, where you're dropped into a world. And I know Minecraft VR exists, but I haven't done anything with that yet. But just the idea of like, I'm enjoying Valheim and playing the game as is right now. But imagine if I was able to be in the world, I think that would be just a little bit more exciting for me as well. So
okay, I think on that note we can wrap this one up.
Wait, you're not going to let me say what I should wrap it up with?
Okay, Nathan, go ahead.
I was going to make a very unserious joke about Custer's Revenge in VR.
I think we've seen that before.
People like, I'm pretty sure people didn't even see the thumbnail on Twitch. Like, I'm pretty sure I wasn't displaying anything at that moment that I don't even remember myself.
But seriously, and this is going to sound silly, but give me Leisure Suit Larry in VR.
Why?
Because I like Leisure Suit Larry games. I platinumed the last one that came out.
Of course you did.
How about 2004's The Guy game on PS2?
No, that sounds like it'd be terrible.
Kozi, do you have anything serious to wrap this up with? Are you good? Or are we good?
I don't know that I would call this a serious thing, but it is something that we do need to get back to. So earlier in the stream, we put out a poll to vote on what I should play next month on the Press YYZ Twitch channel. I'm not accepting these results because we only got a cumulative total of 4 votes. But the winner is, at the moment, Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not accepting these results. I'm going to decide on my own time what it should be. But just for everybody that was tuned in earlier and wanted to know the final results of that poll.
You should still play Avengers. I'd be down. Whatever. Either way,
we'll think.
Keep an eye on Kozi's socials to see what he ends up actually deciding. Keep an eye on our socials for when we announce what he's going to be playing. And keep an eye here on Twitch and YouTube for maybe other hosts playing games for your amusement. Because that's a thing that could happen soon, maybe, if Kozi can help me set up my setup. But thank you, as always, for tuning into this episode of Press YYZ. If you enjoyed what you just heard, be sure to click that subscribe button on YouTube. Click that bell to get notifications. Check us out over on Twitch. Rate and review the podcast anywhere that you can. Come hang out with us on our Discord and follow us on Twitter at PressYYZ, where we will keep you up to date with everything going on with the show and with our hosts and everything. And as always, our social links are in the description of this video, this podcast, this whatever. Yeah, they're around. If you need them, you can find them. But until next time, thanks for playing.
Take care, guys.
And spike your hair.